Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another grand and glorious day up here in Western New York. Wow, one after the other. I'll take them because there is some rain later this coming week in the forecast. So what do we have going for our gospel lesson for today? It's from the second chapter of Mark, beginning with verse 23, and it goes through the first 6 verses of chapter 3. Not all that long. And it's talking about Jesus on the Sabbath day. Now remember, the Sabbath day for the Jewish people, as it is today, as it was back then too, is on Saturday. And on Saturday, it's considered a day of rest. Why is it a day of rest? Well, it's more than just God rested on creation. That's a part of it. But also, it's a day of rest because, as Moses put it, God delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians. Remember all those times you were working every single day of the week, 14 hours a day, slaving away? You don't have to do that. It's a day of rest. Take time to re-energize, reboot, but also to remember what God has done for you. Very, very important. So, but what's the issue going on in our scripture? Well, there's 2 things happening. There's 2 different scenes. One, Jesus is walking with his disciples through a farmer's field. Yeah, just cutting right through it. What? Trampling down some of the well, in this case it was grains of wheat. You're stomping those down. What are you doing that for, guys? Walk around the field. Come on. And what's worse is they're plucking some of those grains of wheat, and they're kind of shelling it in their fingers and then popping it in their mouths. They're hungry. Wait a minute. You know what? There's a lot of Sabbath rules that were already made, and a lot of them were, don't travel any long distances. There were even specific amounts of steps you were allowed to take from here to there. Otherwise, you're violating the Sabbath. You were supposed to cook everything you needed on the day before, so you didn't have to do that because that's work. You're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. Nobody's supposed to work on the Sabbath. Not even your slaves. They are to have a day of rest. Even all your farm animals, they are to have a day of rest. In other words, you're not going to hook up the oxen to go out and plow a field. All right? Just not happening. All because you need to remember what God has done for you. God delivered you out of slavery in Egypt. So take that time off to rejuvenate and to celebrate life, the new life that you now have. All right, so what's going on with Jesus? I mean, your disciples, they're stealing a farmer's field and they're trampling his crops down. What's going on? Well, we have to remember this. This is first century stuff. And did they have chickens running around? I'm sure they did, making noise just like they are behind me right now. But as far as the farmer's fields go, hey, there were pathways going through those fields all over the place, because if you were going from point A to point B, you didn't go around the field. You just cut right through it. And before you know it, there's a pathway beaten down. And yeah, remember the parable of the seeds? The sower sowing the seeds and some fell on the pathway? This is what we're talking about right there. All right, so there were lots of shortcuts. And also, it's not like they went out and picked a bushel of corn and installed that and went home and boiled it up and had corn on the cob. No, it was just a little bit. And the scriptures, the Torah actually permitted that. It permitted people who were hungry and who were traveling, going through a field, to pick a few things to eat. That was okay. That was part of your gratitude to God for being rescued from Egypt. All right, so let's get some of those things straightened. What got the Israelites in a pickle with Jesus, and we're talking about the Pharisees especially, who were the interpreters of the law, is the fact that Jesus said something at the very end. He said, the Sabbath was made for humankind and not humankind for the Sabbath. All right, we get that. In fact, the Pharisees would have no problem with that whatsoever. That was in a lot of the other rabbinic writings of the day. This is what got Jesus into trouble. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. Who's the Son of Man? The Son of Man is the guy who's talking there, Jesus. He is Lord of the Sabbath? Hold the phone. There's just no way this is happening. That's what got Jesus in trouble with the Pharisees, claiming to be Lord of the Sabbath. All right. That's number one. Now, number two, they go to church. What's wrong with that? It's a Sabbath day. You go to church. Well, for them, it's the synagogue. And they go into the synagogue, and there's a man there who's sitting there in his withered hand. What has that done? That has made him basically useless to the community. And he's relying on handouts from everybody, and it's kind of a sad situation. And Jesus just kind of settles in right next to him, and all the Pharisees are watching to say, okay, let me just say one thing real quick. Pharisees aren't bad guys, okay? The Pharisees were good guys, and they wanted to see the Sabbath laws kept so that you and I would appreciate our relationship with God and with one another, okay? So they were rule keepers, so to speak, and they were rule enforcers, but for a very good reason in their time. But we're going to see how even that can go sour. And it does right here. And he told this guy, hey, let me see that hand of yours. This is what Jesus says. And then he looks at the Pharisees and says, would it be lawful for me? Is it okay for me to go ahead and heal his hand right here on the spot? It's on the Sabbath, Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath? To save life or to kill? Well, come on, what kind of a question is that, Jesus? The Pharisees, they didn't know what to say. They're just kind of like that with their tongues hanging out. And Jesus heals him. And why did Jesus heal him? He was grieved because they couldn't give the proper answer. The proper answer they should have known, because it is written within the Torah, the law of God, that you do good. And if you do set aside some of the Sabbath rules for the greater good. And in this case, Jesus said, hey, what better day is there to promote life and well-being than on the Sabbath, the day that God asks us to celebrate life and well-being? And so he heals the man, and immediately they all go out to, it's the Pharisees, and it also says the Herodians, kind of a strange group. That would be like you're watching CNN and you flip the channel to Fox, and both commentators are agreeing on something. Yeah, that's how far apart they were from each other. If you want to say liberal and ultra liberal and ultra conservative, yep, that's what you had back in that day. So a little strange, kind of strange bedfellows there. But the whole point is this. It is about life. The Sabbath is about life. You and I taking time off to rest and rejuvenate and restore, it's for a purpose. Not only to keep ourselves healthy and in good shape, but to promote life and to think about and reflect on what God has done for us. Now, what can we do for others to bring them into a life of abundance? When that man's hand was restored, what it meant was he could once again return to his rightful place in society and be an active part of it, be a productive part of it, not just sit around and look for handouts. Now he can do the handing out to others. Yeah, so there's a lot involved in this story than what we often think. It wasn't that, Jesus was being a bad guy and breaking all the Sabbath rules for his own purposes just to show that he was God and he could do it. No, he did it because he was fulfilling those Sabbath rules and what they meant for those people back then and for you and for me. Just keep all that in mind when we read about that this coming Sunday. All right, God's blessings be with you. Get outside. Get that lawn mowed. The lawnmower next door to me just cut off, so they've been doing just that, listening to me. Get out there and mow your lawn. How about mowing a neighbor's lawn too while you're at it? Yeah, someone who maybe needs a little help and needs you in their life. Yeah, give it a shot. God's blessings be with you.